Hello and welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here are some of the big stories we'll be watching this week. It's official. Donald Trump is set to be sworn in as U.S. president. Will his promises of lower taxes and lighter regulation boost Wall Street? We'll find out when we get an update from some of the country's biggest banks. And the world's elite are set to descend on Davos for the annual World Economic Forum. So we're starting right in the heart of Washington, D.C., where on Friday, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States. The former reality TV star and real estate developer is ascending to the highest office in a deeply divided nation with historically low approval ratings. The lead up to his inauguration has also been clouded by allegations about his ties to Russia. Just days ago, in his first press conference since winning the election, Mr. Trump fiercely denied a raft of unsubstantiated claims made in a leaked dossier about his personal conduct and his team's links to Moscow. As Mr. Trump takes office, Republican Party leaders have said they will move swiftly to implement a strictly conservative agenda and immediately seek to roll back some of President Barack Obama's signature achievements, including the Affordable Care Act. But Mr. Obama has tried to strike an optimistic note during his last days in the White House. Here's what he had to say at his farewell speech in Chicago.
I do have one final ask of you as your president. The same thing I asked when you took a chance on me 8 years ago. I am asking you to believe, not in my ability to bring about change, but in yours. I am asking you to hold fast to that faith written into our founding documents, that idea whispered by slaves and abolitionists, that spirit sung by immigrants and homesteaders and those who marched for justice, that creed reaffirmed by those who planted flags from foreign battlefields to the surface of the moon, a creed at the core of every American whose story is not yet written. Yes, we can.
Although Mr. Trump's inauguration is undoubtedly the biggest story in the U.S., analysts will also be paying attention to Wall Street. The banking sector has enjoyed a rally since Mr. Trump defeated Hillary Clinton to be elected president on November 8th. Analysts note that much of the bank's rally has been pinned on hopes for a profit-boosting mix of higher interest rates, lower taxes, and lighter regulation under the new administration. We'll see if there's any substance to underpin those hopes on Wednesday when Goldman Sachs reports its fourth quarter results. We'll also hear from Morgan Stanley's chairman and chief executive, James Gorman, who's delivering an annual strategic update. Here's our U.S. banking editor, Ben McClanahan, with more on what to look out for.
Investors, I think, will be focusing on two things. The first is capital markets businesses, which for the past few years have been whittled down. The trading inventories have been reduced under tougher capital and liquidity standards. And also the headcount has also been reduced as banks have blanched at paying big bonuses to guys who are effectively destroying shareholder value. But now, under the new Trump regime, is it party time again on Wall Street? Is it time to rebuild some of these big trading teams, especially at banks like Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs? Another key concern is credit, and that's more applies to Bank of America, to JP Morgan Chase, and to Citigroup, which have big universal banks with big retail arms.
And finally, the Swiss Alpine resort of Davos is set to welcome the titans of politics, business, economics, and technology on Tuesday as the annual World Economic Forum begins. The big difference this year is that the Davos crowd's favorite themes of globalization and international harmony have rarely been less fashionable. The election of Donald Trump as U.S. president and the UK's vote to leave the EU have shown large populations wanting to look inward rather than outwards to the wider world. And as the FT's Martin Wolf explains, it's political uncertainty that's casting a shadow over the meeting rather than any concerns about the global economy.
If you ignore the political risks, the economy looks all right. The emerging economies which were hit by the commodity price shock seem to be coming through it. The US and Europe are growing fairly satisfactorily. The US actually looks really rather strong. China has got through the doubts and instability rather well. So actually the world economy looks pretty fine. And then, of course, there's the political risk, and that's the really big one. Political risk clearly coming in Europe, the question of what's happening in the presidential election in France, possible uncertainty in Italy. But the biggest things of all are, of course, Brexit and Trump. And Trump is the big shadow in the sense that people are at the moment very optimistic about some of his programs, but nobody really knows what it's going to mean.
Of course, Mr. Trump will be at his own inauguration rather than Davos, but Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, is expected to take advantage of the U.S. absence by highlighting the growth of alternative Asian power in his first visit to Davos. And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. Goodbye.